I'm Haley Perot, and this is Northwest Newsweek. The Township of Emo and its mayor have been hit with a $15,000 fine for a 2020 decision not to celebrate Pride Month. The fine was doled out by the Human Rights Tribunal of Ontario and ordered to be paid to the Borderland Pride Group. Vasilios Bellos has more.
Refusing to celebrate Pride Month has led to financial consequences for the Township of Emo and its mayor. The Human Rights Tribunal of Ontario has fined Emo $10,000 and its mayor Harold McQuaker $5,000 for a 2020 decision of council to not declare June as Pride Month or fly a 2S LGBTQIA+ flag for a week in June.
There's no flag being flown for the other side of the coin. So that being said,
sorry, Harold, what's the other side of the coin?
Well, the other side of the coin, there's no flags being flown for the straight people.
Made it look like the Township of Emo was living in the 1960s.
The money is to be paid out to Borderland Pride, with director Douglas Judson explaining the impact of the 2020 council decision.
There continue to be holdouts, and there continue to be people who think that they can use their public office as a weapon to undermine the equality and the rights to be treated free from discrimination of queer people.
The proclamation to celebrate Pride was shot down on a 3-2 vote by Emo Council in 2020.
I don't think it reflects well on our community.
Lincoln Dunn was an Emo councillor at the time and voted in favor of recognizing Pride Month. Dunn says Emo is still divided on the decision, but explains the impact it had on the local Pride community.
This had impacted on their feelings of safety in our community. And I know of members of our community who left, who moved away because they felt like this was no longer somewhere where they could be their true authentic selves.
Emo Council had a closed special meeting today to determine next steps. Mayor Harold McQuaker didn't respond to calls requesting an interview. The township posted on social media Tuesday that due to the high volume of calls, they'd all be directed to voicemail. McQuaker did provide a statement to the Toronto Sun saying he won't be bullied into paying the $5,000.
That is a drop in the bucket compared to what this tiny municipality spent to defend the bigotry of 3 people on its council. We expect that their total legal spend on this was $100,000 or $200,000 over the past 4 years.
Vasilios Bellos, TBT News.
It's been just over a week since the NWMO chose the Ignace and Wabigoon Lake site for its planned nuclear waste repository. Many Ignace residents are still celebrating the NWMO's decision to bring the $26 billion project to that area, but not everyone is happy with the outcome. Justin Hardy reports.
Ignace has been chosen as the planned site for the Deep Geologic Repository for Canada's nuclear waste. Ignace was the first municipality considered for the potential site to declare itself willing to host a DGR, with roughly 77% of participants voting in favor during a survey this year. In speaking with a few residents roughly a week after the decision was made, there still appears to be a majority in support of the project, but not everyone is on board.
I'm very pleased. I served 9 years on Ignace Council, so I was involved with quite a bit of it, keeping it going.
Well, I think it's probably going to be a plus for the community and the region as a whole. With the amount of money that's going to be flowing into this area, I think it's going to be good for a lot of people, even though they may not realize it right now.
I don't like it, and it's not safe. Do you see all those trucks that go into ditches? What's going to transport that stuff? Poison.
The next phase of the process will see the project go through a roughly 10-year-long federal regulatory approval process, which will also allow for many to raise their concerns and have their questions answered. There is a few years until that process begins, allowing a breather after over a decade of work getting to this point, according to Ignace councillor Jody DeFeo.
It was a 14-year conversation where the end result was what the majority of the community wanted to hear. So definitely some elation and some relief and anticipation and excitement.
So we've always had a really close relationship and constant back and forth. We've been planning for this event, whether it be a yes or no for the site. We are having regular conversations. In fact, I had a meeting this morning, but we have stepped up a lot of that planning to go forward, and so has council.
The NWMO estimates that construction could begin on the DGR as soon as 2033, with operations hoped to start by 2045. Justin Hardy, TBT News.
OPP and Treaty 3 police have charged a 16-year-old with second-degree murder following a homicide last weekend in Couchiching First Nation. Police were called to a residence in that community at around 4:30 last Sunday morning and found an adult male dead at the scene. The youth was arrested soon after and remains in custody pending a bail hearing. No other information is being released by police at this time. Sioux MPP Saul Mamakwa's effort to make September 30th the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation a provincial stat holiday was officially voted down by the Ford government at Queen's Park this week.
Mr. Cho Scarborough.
Mr. Cho Scarborough.
Mr. Rickford.
Mr. Rickford.
Mr. Kersner.
Mr. Kersner.
Mr. Tabolo.
The bill sought to establish a day of reflection for Indian residential schools, but it was defeated by a 60-30 margin. Last week, Mamakwa made history, becoming the first MPP to introduce a private member's bill in Ojibwe. Monday, before the bill was voted on, Mamakwa and Indigenous Affairs Minister Greg Rickford had this exchange about the number of students who died in residential schools in this province.
The number of known deaths in Indian residential schools in Ontario is now 656. Speaker, Indian residential school survivors across Ontario are still searching the school sites and adjacent Crown lands. What is Ontario doing to remove barriers of their search efforts?
Ontario had the hardihood to move forward with a bold plan, Madam Speaker, not just with resources, but additional state-of-the-art support so that First Nations communities and site-specific Indigenous-led groups could engage in the activities of identification, investigation, protection, and at some point farther down the road, when the scope of this is fully appreciated and understood as a result of this work, to move towards commemoration and investigation. We will continue to provide not just financial supports, but those of other ministries who can help the technological and administrative supports in an effort, Madam Speaker, to reveal these difficult findings as they arise.
Highway 11 between Long Lac and Kapuskasing and Highway 17 between Dryden and Ignace were both closed to all traffic on Wednesday due to multiple collisions. The closures lasted for around 3 hours. Meanwhile, a Thunder Bay driver has been charged by OPP in the Fort Frances area following a 3-vehicle crash Tuesday night. It happened at around 9 p.m. on the Nodin Causeway just east of Couchiching First Nation. OPP say the driver of an SUV attempted to pass a snowplow and lost control, colliding with 2 other vehicles. 5 people were treated in hospital for non-life-threatening injuries. The 25-year-old motorist was charged with careless driving. He's scheduled to appear in Fort Frances Court in February. A portion of Highway 11 was closed for a short time while police investigated. First Nations leaders are calling on the federal government to quit the stalling tactics and start funding Ontario's Indigenous police forces at the same level as the OPP and other police services. A news conference was held in Ottawa Thursday, 1 month before a Canadian Human Rights Tribunal hearing on the funding issue. Lawyer Julian Faulkner filed the human rights complaint last year after several Indigenous police services failed to reach a satisfactory funding agreement with Ottawa. He says the government has delayed the hearing several times and recently tried to have it adjourned completely. Police leaders and First Nation chiefs say the chronic underfunding of NAPS, Treaty 3, and Anishinaabeg police is leading to unsafe working conditions for their officers and a crisis situation in many First Nation communities.
With the experience of walking through the front doors of Treaty 3 Police Service, one could not help but notice the discriminatory conditions that our officers in the communities that they served worked in.
Canada cannot delay this. Lives are depending on it. Not only the people that we serve, but our officers that are expected to fulfill a role just like any other officer.
I refuse to accept this for my people. We need Canada and Ontario to stop passing responsibility back and forth and take action. Hiding behind jurisdictional arguments only deepens our crisis and delays the help we desperately need.
The Human Rights Tribunal hearing is scheduled to begin on January 6th. Eabametoong students are back in the classroom after the community celebrated the opening of a temporary school. We'll have that story after the break.
It's a new space, so we're learning new routines, learning how to be back together again.
Eabametoong students are finally back in the classroom after nearly a year without a school. It was lost to a huge fire last winter, but the remote First Nations celebrated the opening of a temporary school last month. Justin Hardy has the story.
Eabametoong First Nation lost its school in a massive blaze last winter. In the scramble to get a temporary alternative built, the community turned to its treaty partners for support. The federal government provided $3 million and the province gave $540,000 to construct the new temporary school. A few things still need to be added to truly complete the temporary new learning site, but the community celebrated the opening last month. Danielle Yellowhead, Director of Education for the community, says that everyone was excited to see the doors open.
We had a ceremony and a opening prayer and a drum song for our students on November 12th, and there was a lot of students that showed up to the community hall in the afternoon, so that's where we shared a bunch of food. We catered in pizza. Salt and Pepper was able to send in some food, and it was a great time.
Construction of the temporary school was completed rather quickly despite a few setbacks like hitting bedrock while trying to install water and sewer lines. Staff and students have been getting by with virtual and land-based learning. School principal Thomas Stanley says it's been a bit of an adjustment to be back fully in a classroom.
It's a new space, so we're learning new routines, learning how to be back together again, because before the new buildings were built, we were half the time land-based and half the time in some temporary structures that we had. So now that we're in the more permanent structures, everybody's calming down, we're setting up routines, less time outside.
There is currently no official timeline on when construction is set to begin for the permanent school, but it is estimated that it could be completed in 5 to 7 years. Justin Hardy, TBT News.
At Queen's Park this week, Kiiwetinoong MPP Saul Mamakwa continued to hold the Ford government accountable for its commitment to build a new long-term care facility in Sioux Lookout. He questioned the Minister of Long-Term Care to see if any tangible progress has taken place to make that promise a reality.
Since 2018, this government has promised to build a new long-term care facility with 76 new long-term care beds. To the Minister of Long-Term Care, what tangible steps is this government taking to deliver the long-promised 76 long-term care beds in Sioux Lookout?
I'm happy to say that today we are delivering on that commitment. And we have just recently approved a $2.5 million planning grant to be provided to Sioux Lookout Menoyawing Health Center. Speaker, this planning grant means that this 96-bed project can now advance from the planning stage of development into the construction stage.
Mamakwa then asked the minister to provide a timeline for the project's completion, but there was no direct response given. The fundraising campaign to bring an MRI to the hospital in Sioux Lookout got a big boost this week. The Sioux Lookout First Nations Health Authority donated $100,000 to the Nimoyawan Health Center Foundation. SLIFNA officials say as a health service provider and advocate for First Nations health in the region, they recognize the need to have medical services closer to home. The Menoyawin Foundation kicked off its MRI fundraising campaign in December 2023, hoping to raise $7 million to make a locally available MRI a reality within the Sioux Lookout region. Hospital CEO Dean Osmond says they're grateful for SLIFNA's big contribution to the foundation's campaign for an MRI, which he says will help improve healthcare services for all patients in their region. A Northern Ontario MPP is calling on the province to increase winter highway training for transport drivers. The private member's bill was tabled at Queen's Park this week by the NDP's Guy Bourgouin. Amanda Hicks reports.
When it comes to navigating snow and ice-covered Northern Ontario roads, Mushkegowuk James Bay MPP Guy Bourgouin says additional training for truckers is needed.
The bill is going to be for truckers for A and D licenses, that they have 20 hours of training on a truck simulator, to expose them to winter conditions.
At Queen's Park, Bourgouin was joined by advocates in the industry who say many drivers lack the experience needed to handle harsh winter conditions.
They lack the knowledge of how a truck behaves on icy roads, how to adjust their driving techniques, and the importance of recognizing their limits.
Danny Whalen, president of the Federation of Northern Ontario Municipalities, formerly served as co-chair for the province's Northern Ontario Transportation Task Force and says he supports the bill.
Many of the drivers that are coming north are hitting their first snowstorm and they've never seen anything like it before. So this new private members bill, we fully support it. I've sent in a letter of support for it, and we think it's a great step forward.
If passed, the 20 hours of simulated training would be in addition to the 103.5 hours currently mandated by the province. Officials with the Northern Academy of Transport Training say that their feelings are mixed.
It's very, very difficult for me to say that I wholeheartedly agree with an additional 20 hours of simulated winter driving. But again, I do also favor the side of additional training, and anything over and above is always going to help, right?
Delamandier says instead of the simulated environment, he would rather see students complete their additional 20 hours of training in a truck with a coach to experience the winter conditions firsthand. Amanda Hicks, CTV News, Sudbury.
Numerous weapons and drug charges have been laid following the execution of a search warrant at a residence in Manitou on Wednesday. A 35-year-old man and a 31-year-old woman from that community were arrested and charged by OPP. Police confiscated multiple prohibited weapons, including firearms and replica firearms, as well as suspected crystal meth. The woman was released from custody with a future court date, while the man was held in custody and appeared in bail court on Thursday. Smaller mine service and supply businesses got the chance to engage with 4 large mine companies this week. We'll have that story when we come back.
It's difficult to be able to, for each individual company to figure out who they need to talk to at the companies and how they get on their vendor list or how they do their procurement.
Regional businesses got the chance to show what they're made of on Wednesday to 4 mining companies operating in northwestern Ontario. The Reverse Expo gave the smaller businesses a chance to meet face-to-face and get involved in the upcoming mining boom. Justin Hardy has the story.
The Reverse Expo was organized between the Thunder Bay Economic Development Commission and Mine Connect. Mining service and supply companies from all over the Northwest were invited to give them a chance to connect with major mining players, including First Mining Gold, Newmont Musselwhite, West Red Lake Gold Mines, and Green Technology Metals. CEDC CEO Jamie Taylor says they hope to see these local companies participating with these much larger mining projects.
We do a number of different events throughout the year, but this one in particular gets them right in front of the companies. It's difficult to be able to, for each individual company to figure out who they need to talk to at the companies and how they get on their vendor list or how they do the procurement. So the opportunity that we're presenting here is to be able to do that. So the companies, the mining supply and service will learn about the plans, what maybe services and supply they can offer each of the companies.
The event featured 15-minute project presentations from participating mining companies, highlighting current and future needs and opportunities. After the presentations, the smaller companies in attendance each had one-on-one pitch sessions to showcase themselves directly to decision makers with each mining company. Denise Atkinson, founder and CEO of TP Horse Connect, says it's a great opportunity for Indigenous entrepreneurs.
The mining companies are working on our traditional territories, so it's really important for us as Indigenous entrepreneurs to get a chance at these tenders, these opportunities in our area. It's so important for Indigenous entrepreneurs, like I said, to have a seat at the table and to benefit from the many opportunities on our traditional territory.
Only 24 mining service and supply companies participated, which allowed each participant at least 2 one-on-one meetings. Justin Hardy, TBT News.
4 new fire trucks are on the way for the municipality of Greenstone at a combined cost of more than $2.5 million. Council approved the tendering for the 4th fire truck ordered this year at a meeting last month. The new tanker truck, similar to the one shown here, will be coming from Battle Shield Industries with a price tag of $512,000. The new truck is coming at the heels of 3 mobile water supply fire trucks from Fort Garry First Fire Trucks ordered in October. A review of the fire department in 2023 noted that all of the pumper trucks in the fleet were close to reaching 20 years in service. The arrival of one truck previously ordered is helping, but the community is in need of more as other trucks age, according to Mayor James McPherson.
This will be the 4th truck we've approved in a month, so we're up to about $2.5 million worth of vehicles for the fire departments. And because we are a large municipality of many communities, Beermore, Geraldton, Longlac, and Nakina all have fire departments, all need trucks. So we're not a municipality of 4,500 who needs one of. We're a municipality of 4,500 who needs 4 or 5 of everything.
The new trucks are expected to be delivered in roughly 2 years. They'll be allocated throughout the region based on where the demand is at the time. Eabametoong employees were packing boxes of donated food at the RFDA Wednesday morning on the 4th day of their 12 Days of Christmas initiative. The campaign is aimed at spreading holiday cheer throughout the community, one random act of kindness at a time. For the past 9 years, Eabametoong has made it a tradition partnering with charity organizations across the Northwest to give back during the holiday season. Day 4 of this year's initiative saw Eabametoong employees volunteering their time with the RFDA to help pack over 700 kilograms of donated food collected at their offices. Eabametoong spokesperson Caitlin Gaspar says it's a rewarding experience to participate in giving back, especially during the trying times of the holiday season.
So we had boxes in all of our lunchrooms at all the Eabametoong locations, and then we also purchased some donations as well, and now we're just packing them all up. We had our Eabametoong vehicle all filled up. We got those on the forklifts, and we now have an assembly line. So the RFDA staff have told us which boxes, which items go in which. So that's what we're doing right now, is stocking everything.
Well, it's a great partnership because, quite frankly, they have the same regional footprint we do, and the focus is about community. So I just think it's a natural fit. The Regional Food Distribution Association is really about feeding community, and the Eabametoong is all about supporting the community and those people in the region as well, so I thought it was just perfect.
Gaspar says people can check Eabametoong's social media pages for updates on their next act of kindness. The town of Marathon has filled the vacant council seat left after former councillor Zach Zuki resigned in October due to his relocation in another community. David Giuliano has been appointed over 5 other candidates following what the municipality calls an extensive interview and evaluation process. The decision was made at a special meeting of council on Wednesday evening. And that's all the time we have for this edition of Northwest Newsweek. We'll be back next week with more of the stories from across the Northwest.